Hello, my name is Cleo E. Brown. This PowerPoint presentation is my final project in Education 8145, which is the history of higher education in the United States. The class is being taught by Dr. Patrick Bennett, PhD. My presentation is about the effects of the national bans on affirmative action and diversity, equity, and inclusion policy by the federal government and its effect on African American mental health. In this topic, I will address 6 themes. These are the history of affirmative action and diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. Methodology comprised of critical race theory and social constructivism. The bans on affirmative action and DEI, which are racially motivated. The fact that the bans undermine the mental health of African American students. The fact that African American college students face more stress and anxiety on mainstream college campuses than do their white counterparts. And finally, the impact of COVID-19, which compounded the tendencies in students to have poorer mental health. And this is an overall effect which goes across the board, not just African American students. Finally, I will end with a conclusion which recommends attendance at an HBCU for African American students. But first, a little bit about the historical background of these bans. While the civil rights movement actually begins as far back as the publication of Harriet Beecher Stowe's book entitled Uncle Tom's Cabin, which was published in 1852, the Black Lives Matter movement begins as the result of the murder of George Floyd on May 25, 2020, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I mention the origins of both of these movements because the topics of this presentation were created as the result of each. Affirmative action was used by the Johnson administration as a remedy for centuries of racial injustice in employment and education directed against especially African American people. Affirmative action, which was used in this manner, by 1965 was the culmination, therefore, of centuries of struggle in the civil rights movement. While diversity, equity, and inclusion policy was made prominent by the Black Lives Matter movement of 2020 to 2021. This was a call for the inclusion of all people in an equitable manner in employment and education. Alan Bakke, however, began the process of invalidating affirmative action in 1978 with the Bakke decision. Following Bakke's lead, the Supreme Court invalidated affirmative action in higher education in June of 2023. Similarly, in February of 2025, sitting President Donald Trump banned diversity, equity, and inclusion in all contracts, including education, held by the federal government. The problem, therefore, is that the bans on these policies will lead to poor mental health in African American education, higher education. Critical race theory and social constructivist theory are the lenses through which these bans will be examined. Critical race theory maintains that these policies were banned because they were in place to protect the rights of African Americans, while these policies did not directly benefit white Americans. Social constructivist theory, on the other hand, is not based on biology, but on the society as well as the culture of a group, and can be either explicit or implicit. And types of social constructivism are microaggressions and gaslighting. Based on this analysis, therefore, using both critical race theory and social constructivist theory, the bans are racially motivated and impact African American college students by creating anxiety and stress, which leads to poor mental health and an inability to effectively study. And I have at this point a few definitions for you. Affirmative action is a set of procedures designed to eliminate unlawful discrimination among participants or applicants. Diversity is the presence of a variety of characteristics, differences, and perspectives within a group. Equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. And inclusion is the practice or policy of providing access to opportunities and resources which might otherwise be withheld from the marginalized group. And there are more definitions. I've already given you a definition for critical race theory and for social constructivism. There is a definition for microaggressions, which is the everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to target persons based solely on their marginalized group membership, and gaslighting. And on the next slide, I have some examples of gaslighting. The slowdown in which you're told, well, we can't do that yet. The pushback in which you are told you're doing that the wrong way. The shutdown in which you're told that your work is not acceptable. And the blowback, which is peer and public pressure through threats and disapproval. That African American students face more stress and anxiety on mainstream campuses is a fact. G.S. Johnson, Wolf and Dilworth, and Knorr et al. Discuss the poor mental health of African American scholars. Also impacting the mental health of African American students, however, was the isolation and declining economic status they experienced as the result of school and job closures throughout COVID-19. And this also applied to Hispanic and Asian people or students. So in conclusion, while students on mainstream campuses can seek mental health counseling or attend campuses whose policies reflect the values of affirmative action and diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, they can also seek to pursue their education at an HBCU. And I have listed there some of the solutions. HBCUs are historically Black colleges and universities. They date back to 1830. I believe the first one was founded in Pennsylvania. There are 109 such schools in the United States. While they are underfunded and therefore cannot boast of the varied curriculum of mainstream institutions, they have been invaluable and instrumental in developing Black scholars for the past 200 years. And there is a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. with some information about his tenure at Morehouse University, which is an HBCU. He is a graduate of Morehouse University. Also, Thurgood Marshall, Booker T. Washington, Rosa Parks, Kamala Harris, John Lewis, Andrew Young, Stokely Carmichael, Oprah Winfrey, and Spike Lee all attended an HBCU. According to Johnson et al., attendance at an HBCU for African Americans leads to the following: a reduction in mental health crisis. It provides a family or parental environment. It provides a greater sense of race pride. It provides a higher sense of self-esteem, and it provides greater self-efficacy, especially for African American students. This project, therefore, has examined the effect of the national bans on affirmative action and diversity, equity, and inclusion policy through the lenses of critical race theory and social constructivism. Both theories suggest that racism is the end result of the bans on African Americans in higher education. The racism leads to poor mental health and an inability to effectively study. A solution to this dilemma, besides patronage of a mental health professional, therefore, is intended to add an HBCU which overall stimulates and elevates the Black self-concept. I'd like to thank you, and on the next several slides, there are my references. The camera will go off momentarily, but will come back on for the last reference slide, and I will at that time extend another thank you for listening. Well, I guess the camera's still on. There's a reference slide. There's a reference slide. There's a reference slide. One more. And I want to thank you for viewing. Thank you so much. Have a good day.